A young dinosaur curls up on volcanic ash. It tucks its legs beneath its body. It folds its arms. It turns its head backward and buries its snout under one feathered elbow. Exactly the way a duck sleeps on a pond tonight. And then it never wakes up. We found it 125 million years later. Still curled, still tucked, still asleep. Its name means sleeping dragon. We know what dinosaurs ate. We know how fast they ran, how hard they bit, what color some of their feathers were. But there's a third of their lives we almost never talk about, because every animal sleeps. Sharks sleep. Insects sleep. Even jellyfish, animals with no brain at all, go into a rest state at night, and if you keep them awake, they need to make it up the next day. Sleep is older than bones, older than eyes, so a Tyrannosaurus rex slept. A 70-ton sauropod slept. Something as strange as a stegosaurus shut down every night and went somewhere. The question is, what did that look like? And here's the unsettling part. For a long time, the honest answer was that we would never know. Sleep is behavior. Behavior doesn't fossilize. Unless something goes very, very wrong. Northeastern China, the Yixian Formation. Paleontologists call one layer there the Lujiatun beds. Locals have another name for it, the Chinese Pompeii, because this wasn't a slow burial. Animals in these beds are found three-dimensional, uncrushed, frozen midlife, buried instantly by volcanic debris flows, while they were still doing whatever they were doing. In 2004, a team described a new dinosaur from those beds, a small troodontid, about the size of a duck. They named it Mei Long, Mei, sleeping soundly, Long, dragon, because of the posture, hind legs folded underneath, body compact, neck curved around to the left, snout tucked beneath the left forelimb. This is called the stereotypical avian roosting posture. Go look at a bird sleeping tonight. Head twisted back, beak buried in the shoulder feathers. That's it. That's the exact position. Now, one fossil proves nothing. Dead animals contort. Muscles and tendons dry out and pull carcasses into curled shapes all the time. Paleontologists have a name for that too, the death pose. So the Mei Long find could have been a coincidence. Then in 2012, they found a second one. Same species, different individual, same beds, same posture. Two animals dying separately in the identical sleeping position. That's not decay, that's behavior, that's a fossilized habit. Which raises a much darker question, one people rarely ask about the Chinese Pompeii. Why were they asleep when it happened? Because the burial event came for them at rest. These animals didn't run, they didn't scatter. There's no defensive posture, no sign of struggle, no attempt to flee. Whatever killed them arrived while they were curled up and unconscious, and it moved fast enough that asleep was still the position they were in when the sediment stopped them, which tells us something else, something about when they slept. If a volcanic flow rolls through at night and catches a whole community sleeping, you've learned that this animal slept at night. If it hits during the day and finds them sleeping, you've learned the opposite, and it turns out there's a way to check. You just have to look at their eyes. Most vertebrates, birds, lizards, and dinosaurs, have something mammals lost, a ring of small bones inside the eyeball called the scleral ring, and the size of that ring, measured against the size of the eye socket, is not random. It scales with how much light an animal needs. Nocturnal animals need enormous apertures to gather what little light there is. Daytime animals don't. In 2011, Lars Schmitz and Ryosuke Motani published a study in Science. They measured scleral rings and eye sockets in 164 living species where the activity pattern was already known, then used that relationship to read the same bones in 33 extinct archosaurs. The results broke the picture we'd all grown up with. Large plant eaters, sauropods, Diplodocus-type giants came out cathemeral, active in bursts around the clock, day and night, with no single sleep block, which makes brutal sense when you have to eat hundreds of kilos of low-grade vegetation every single day. There aren't enough daylight hours. You cannot afford to be unconscious for 8 of them. Small carnivores, nocturnal, velociraptor, the real one, turkey-sized, feathered, was reading as a night hunter. And the flying reptiles, the pterosaurs, split across the whole spectrum, exactly the way seabirds do today. So the Mesozoic never went quiet. Picture that. There was no hour when the world was safe. When the big herbivores were down, the small hunters were up. The dark wasn't a truce. It was a shift change, which brings us to the animal that had the worst problem of all. Quick thing before we get to it. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, the strange, quiet parts of prehistory that nobody covers, subscribe and leave a like. It genuinely decides whether the channel keeps making these. Okay, the animal with the problem. Take Argentinosaurus, 60-70 tons, longer than a blue whale. Lying down is not free for an animal like that. For a large mammal, the danger of lying down is your own body weight crushing your lungs and cutting circulation. Elephants, the closest living analog we have, sleep only about 2 hours a night in the wild, and the largest ones often do it standing up. Lying flat too long can kill them. Now scale that up by a factor of 10. So the working picture is this. The giants probably didn't sleep the way you do. Not a long unconscious block. Short bouts, often on their feet, possibly resting one half of the brain at a time. Because that's not speculation, that's a real thing, and it's alive right now. It's called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One hemisphere of the brain sleeps, the other stays awake. One eye stays open. Ducks do it. Sleeping in a row, the birds on the ends keep their outward-facing eye open all night, watching the dark while their inner brain shuts off. Birds do it in flight. Dolphins do it to keep breathing. Crocodilians do it too, and that matters enormously. Because birds and crocodilians are the two surviving branches that bracket the dinosaurs. If both sides of the family do something, the animals in between almost certainly did it as well. Which means the image most of us have, a sleeping dinosaur, defenseless, out cold, is probably wrong. Half of it was still watching. Now the question you actually want answered. For decades the assumption was that REM sleep, the dreaming stage, was a mammal and bird invention. Recent brains, warm brains. Then in 2016, a team at the Max Planck Institute put electrodes into the brain of an Australian bearded dragon, a lizard, and the lizard cycled. Slow-wave sleep, then a REM-like state with rapid eye movements, flicking back and forth behind closed lids, then back again. Roughly 80 seconds per cycle, all night long. If a bearded dragon does it, and a bird does it, and a mammal does it, then the two-stage architecture of sleep isn't a recent luxury. It's ancient. It was almost certainly running in the common ancestor of all of them. Which puts it unavoidably inside the dinosaurs. So, did they dream? Nobody can prove content. Nobody knows what it was like. But the machinery, the cycling, the eye movements, the offline brain replaying itself in the dark, that hardware was almost certainly there, in the skull of every dinosaur that ever lived, for 165 million years. Tyrannosaurus had it, and it had the neurons to run it. One last fossil. In 2020, researchers described another animal out of the same Chinese beds. A small plant eater, built like a shovel, short neck, powerful shoulders, spade-shaped snout, forelimbs made for digging. They found two of them, both inside collapsed burrow structures, both curled up. They named it Changmiania lianingensis, Changmen, eternal sleep. These animals dug tunnels, went underground, curled up in the dark to rest, and the volcanic debris flow sealed the tunnels while they were still down there. They were buried alive, in bed. And that's the thing about all of these. Every fossil in this video is a sleeping animal, which means every one of them is an animal that was, at that exact moment, safe, tucked in, warm, off duty. The only reason we know how dinosaurs slept is that the sky opened on the one night it didn't matter how careful they'd been. We spend a lot of time imagining dinosaurs at their loudest, roaring, hunting, dying, in some spectacular way, but almost none of that is what their lives actually were. Their lives were mostly this: finding a safe spot before the light went, folding the legs in, tucking the face under one arm. The sleeping dragon isn't a fossil of a dinosaur dying. It's a fossil of a dinosaur feeling safe, and that turned out to be the one posture worth keeping for 125 million years.